So if you work for a logistics broker and you're having to make 120 phone calls a day, how many of those calls are actually translating to quality conversations? Today on Lead with Tech, we wanted to focus on something that seems to be a pretty big problem to Integrity Express Logistics and quite a few other companies, and that is employee satisfaction.
Yeah, why people are not happy, why they feel like their work-life balance is off.
Yeah.
And how can AI and technology solve those problems? Because they can.
All right. Well, today on Lead with Tech, we are going to talk a little bit about a company that I have quite a bit of history with over the years, even before my time at Techery, Integrity Express Logistics. They're a very quickly growing third-party logistics company in the U.S. Rapid expansion, but as we all know, sometimes rapid expansion comes with some growing pains. So we're going to address a couple of those today, specifically employee satisfaction and what that looks like, how we can leverage technology and AI to help make our employees happier, help make our business more productive. So let's get into it.
Yeah. Every time I hear the words logistics or trucking, the first thing that comes to mind is employee dissatisfaction. People are struggling, people are unhappy, huge turnovers and all that stuff. Especially the trucking industry. Like the trucking industry itself is forecasted to transform dramatically in the next 10 years, mostly because most of the drivers are retiring in the next 10 years. And not a lot of young people actually want to join those forces. The problems for logistics companies in general, people in the middle between the shippers and the drivers, what are the problems typically that these companies and today's hero encounter?
Yeah, well, and like you said, they are a hero in a lot of ways. I've been very impressed by the rapid expansion of their company and how they've been able to continue that through COVID and things like that. I've really watched them go from being a much smaller company than they were to being, kind of a giant in the industry as far as third-party logistics go. I have conversations with a lot of people who know them by name, whether that's because they've worked there or have seen the trucks going up and down the road or what have you. And I think that that's really cool. They're definitely still a part of the big issue, which is employee satisfaction rates, because most people want to enjoy the place they work and they want to feel like they are being fed into and trained properly for the positions they have. And then, another thing specifically with IEL that I've heard about is tenured employees really disliking the changing commission structure and not feeling like there's any clarity there as to ways that they were being paid, and then it'll change 1 year and then it'll change again the next year. And now they're making fractions of the amount of money that they were making, which, begs them to ask the question, well, are we not making money? Because we seem to be doing okay if we're constantly expanding like this. So where's the disconnect there?
If they're watching right now, they're thinking easier said than done.
Yeah.
I think we should mention that this podcast and the way we talk about problems in different industries is through the technology lens, right? Through the lens of a software company and how we see a lot of those problems could be eliminated or solved. So when we're talking about employee dissatisfaction, okay, what do you guys do about it? Not a lot of companies are actually looking towards the employee satisfaction and commission structures and all that stuff, because a lot of those companies, as we know, they're commission-based. And like you said, it was a cool phrase. If you're making 120 cold calls a day, you're not having productive conversations. That's just common sense.
Yeah, no, exactly. They're having to make 80 to 120 calls a day. I've seen quite a few things that said there's no work-life balance. They are working around the clock to hit these metrics, and they're not really seeing any fruit for the labors of that.
So there are 5 problems that we see right now that more or less correlate to the same thing. So the first one is frequent changes to the commission structure that frustrate employees, and that leads to perceived unfairness and instability. People just don't feel stable. Number 2, high call quotas stress employees, leading to burnout. The third thing is employees feel unsupported and see favorism in management practices. That's true, that is a systemic issue that should be solved with a proper process. The fourth one is poor work-life balance due to unexpected calls, workload beyond office hours. That's pretty common. Like if you want to grow, especially in sales, that is pretty common. AI and technology tools in this case are very, very effective because they can automate a bunch of repetitive tasks that people do on a daily basis, like those follow-up emails and, the scripts and all that stuff. People just don't need to spend that much time on it. And the final one is high turnover due to dissatisfaction. So let's start with number one. Let's start with the frequent changes to the commission structure. We're talking about AI a lot on this podcast, and AI is definitely the answer here. You need to use AI to analyze what happened before, what's happening right now, the market trends, what works for the people, analyze all that stuff, come to a conclusion, and then create a dynamic commission strategy for the people. But more importantly, it has to be transparent. And
Yes.
you can talk to this more, right? Because you talk to those people that one of the biggest problems they have is that they have no idea what's going on to their commission this month.
Once we have algorithms and things put into place that can create a stable and consistent commission structure for these employees, and they can get on there and see, this is what I'm making, this is why I'm making it, and this is how that all correlates, and how you can either improve or that goes down or what have you based on their actions, that gives them inherently goals to reach for. And when they have that through the transparency of your commission structure, they can work to make more money.
Right. If we go to the interface level right now, what I see is basically if it's a desk job, then it could be a web application, or if it's a field job, it could be a mobile application that basically has a dashboard for the employee or an AI assistant to the employee, which is much better. That's what we typically do for companies. It's a personalized AI assistant that knows everything about, has all the data points, knows performance across the board, knows the goals, knows the KPIs, knows historical data, and basically helps you, becomes your kind of like daily coach, right? Coach, someone who knows historically calling that region this season is not going to yield very good results. So probably stay away from that. So these are the companies from the roster that I recommend calling today. And these are the topics. This is what I found on the internet about these companies that could also help you break the ice and maybe make the conversation deeper, and you would have some additional intel that you don't have to dig, right? AI does all that stuff for you. But then we're talking about the transparent commission. AI will always tell you, hey, today you're forecasted to make, I don't know, $200, and the KPIs should be governed and controlled by AI, which will help bring that transparency, and the transparency will help bring the trust and elevate trust tremendously. And elevated trust automatically increases motivation, and motivation increases retention, and retention increases effectiveness for the company, and then growth can be predicted.
And let's be honest, there's always going to be some amount of turnover in any organization. The nice thing about tools like this is that information and that data that it is currently always learning, and it is always growing with what it knows and how it knows to help you with your business, that doesn't go anywhere. You know, these AI tools, they don't leave your company. They continue to grow, and they continue to learn. They continue to make as a resource to be better for every employee the next day, better than it was the day before. You know, it's almost that principle of, if you grow 1% a day in 365 days, how much have you grown? A lot.
Let's not forget that the company is getting a huge benefit from implementing something like this, because the company owns the data. So The company will be fed back all the data from all these AI agents talking to all those brokers, making calls. So the company's dashboard and the company's AI assistant, in that case, can answer more strategic questions and can showcase, like, these 15 people are less effective than those, and these are the reasons, and maybe change this and that. So letting people compete, but in a healthy way. And the company is now merit-based, and the company then will have a very transparent understanding of what's happening efficiency-wise across the board. Talking about like the unpredictable nature of the high turnover rate for the company, that also creates this extra layer of security for the company, when the company now can see, well, basically the AI will be able to predict who's about to quit, who is friends with who just quit. There's a lot of data points that could be used to predict those things as well. so that the company's HR department will know ahead of time that we should probably talk to John and Mike because those are very valuable to us, but they're in the risk category. So those data points that the company has inside right now, they are not utilized to help the company grow. And the main idea is that using those data points, you can help your company grow tremendously with AI and the right technology.
And like you said, not just transparency with the sales and team, but transparency all the way through the ranks, through like you said, the larger corporate window of being able to look at your entire sales force as a whole and very granularly analyze and teach and develop your teams, because that's another thing we saw quite a bit on, at least I know I did on my reviews of some of the comments and things like that on IEL, is a lot of people said they didn't feel like there was a lot of training or guidance given to them initially. So this automatically helps with that too.
Just a screaming example of where AI could totally shine for any company. When there's not enough training, when people feel unsupported, when they have questions but they can't get the answers, when they don't really know if they're efficient or not. Is it normal that out of 120 calls I made today, only 2 were successful? Is that a good rate? Or like, is there something wrong with me? Was I doing? And also, let's not forget that AI today can even listen to your calls, right? The way you talk, the way you communicate the message, you convey the message to the customer, and can correct that based on just the industry standards, but as well as company-specific training programs. So because it will be locked to those, and if those are proven to be efficient, then of course it's great to use them. The question is, do people actually use them? The company doesn't know right now because everything's happening on the phone. Yeah. So AI could analyze those calls and see who's using which techniques, and maybe some techniques work better than the others, so that others should be trained to use those techniques. So stuff like that. And what's great about the system is that it's ever evolving and it's self-learning and it's evolving all the time, making people better. Also automating a lot of repetitive tasks, because AI can also detect where you're spending maybe 2 hours a day on follow-ups, right? All that stuff should be automated. All that stuff can be automated. It's already possible. We're already there technologically to make it all happen.